Welcome to Reaching World Podcast, where we highlight the world's largest network of influencers for good, love, and service. Join us in saying thank you to these incredible individuals and organizations by listening, subscribing, and sharing their legacies. And by doing this together, we will help inspire others to leave their legacy of service and love. I'm your host, Zach Garner.
My name is Leif. I am an anesthesiologist, and I'm 43 years old. I started a website a few years ago when I realized that my family and I had attained financial independence. In other words, the ability to continue to live our lives as we are without an income. And that was a pretty big revelation at the time. So I started a website to tell other people what this concept of financial independence is and how you can best attain it. And there are a lot of sites out there focusing kind of a very, very frugal existence in doing this. And I didn't necessarily approach it that way. So I talk more to high-income professionals like doctors and dentists and lawyers and people that are used to making good money, but also used to spending lots and lots of money, and teaching them that you can live a awfully good life while still saving and investing a lot of money. And I kind of talk people through how to do that, how to help save on taxes and that sort of thing. And I guess that segues nicely into some of the charitable work that I'm doing, both in my personal life and with the website.
Awesome. Yeah, go ahead and tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, mentioning tax savings, the government does give us a break on money we donate. For every dollar you give away, if you're in a high income tax bracket, you might save 35, 45 cents on every dollar given. So one thing that my wife and I did after we realized that I'd probably be retiring early, and I knew I'd have some guilt for doing that, I started building up a donor advised fund, and we've funded that now by not only giving to it, but also giving from it. And essentially what it is it's an account that you donate money to. Once you put money in it, it's not yours. You can't get it back. It must be and will be donated to actual charities. They have to be registered as 501c3 charities in the eyes of the IRS. But you get to decide to which charities and when. And so that donor advised fund of ours is now about 10% of our nest egg. And I've pledged and I have been donating from my website 50% of the profits to charity, mostly via that donor advised fund. So the site's got a charitable mission to help those less fortunate, while we're also helping people who, by virtue of their paychecks are in a pretty fortunate position, but not always doing the best things with their money.
Talk to me a little bit about the name and the brand Physician on Fire. I love that concept. I love the logo. Talk to us a little bit about how that came to be and what it all stands for and the meaning behind it and the passion behind it.
Sure. Yeah. Once I realized that there wasn't really a financial independence blog coming from the perspective of a higher income individual, I started to toss names around. And the term FIRE is an acronym in this case for Financial Independence, Retire Early. And but I also like the imagery of the physician on fire, and it's kind of like the basketball player who's hitting three after three. They're on fire, or en fuego, as they like to say on Sports Center. And then with physician, because the physician and fire, they kind of you get that alliteration going. So the logo, that turned out really cool too. I hired somebody just on Fiverr to put something together, and they managed to put a person and a flame, and then I asked for the stethoscope, and the whole thing came together really nicely. So yeah, so it's physicianonfire.com, and I know that's kind of hard to spell and easy to make a typo. So you can also type in POFire.com, POFIRE, and that'll get you there too.
Perfect. So what can, if I'm listening to this podcast, what can I find and get from your blog and your website? What would make you want to go there today? So tell us a little bit more about it. Like, it helps teach financial independence, but why should I go there today?
Well, I cover pretty much all aspects of personal finance, particularly for the higher income individual, simply because that's what I am and that's what I know. So, I break it down into categories: investing, taxes, frugality, or as I say, relative frugality. I also talk about, what to expect after retiring early and what life can look like then. So, my family and I have been doing some travel a few weeks at a time because I dropped to part-time about a year and a half ago in my anesthesia job. And so, like, for example, we went to Mexico for 3 weeks, and it felt like a place where we could stay for 3 months or more, which is something that we probably will do in the coming years, as I do plan to wind down my anesthesia career here later this year, this summer of 2019, actually.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah,
it's exciting. It is. It really is. And we've also done some mission work. My wife and my kids were able to join me on a medical mission trip to Honduras that took place on site at a large children's home. They call it an orphanage, although you can't adopt the kids, so it's more of a place where they grow up and get an education. And they also have a surgery center that was built by an orthopedic surgeon who did some pretty extensive fundraising to create a place in Honduras where people who cannot afford to have care given there by the state hospitals, the government hospitals, to come and get all sorts of major surgery done. And so I did a week of anesthesia last year. I'll be going back again in May. And my wife and kids were able to help out with the children who are growing up on the ranch and also doing some odd jobs around the surgery center. And it was just a really good community experience and family experience for us.
That's fantastic. So you're going again in May. And so if I'm listening to this podcast and if I'm a doctor or physician that have something to offer these children and these communities in Honduras, how would I go about getting involved? Is there an opportunity with Physician on Fire to get involved and go with your group or your organization?
As far as the Honduras trip specifically, it's through oneworldsurgery.org. And on my website, I wrote up a long, detailed article about our experience there last year. So if you just go to my site and search for Honduras, it'll come up as the first post. And I am actually inviting people to join me. It's May 11th to 18th, and we need a lot of nursing care and OR personnel. They typically bring 30 to 50 people from the U.S. every couple of weeks for these brigades, they call them.
Well, thank you, Leif. Appreciate your time today. And if you could have a billboard and everybody in the world could read it, what would you want them to know about you or Physicians on Fire or the good that you're trying to do to the world?
I would just put the golden rule up there. That's something we've been stressing with our kids lately when they're not treating each other very well. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
So, Leif, if I'm listening to this podcast and want to follow you and follow your relief efforts and follow the good that you're influencing in your market and community, how would I go about following you and your organizations?
All right. So the website's a great place to start, pofire.com. And you mentioned Facebook, but I'm also on Twitter at Physician on Fire. Also Instagram, same handle at Physician on Fire. So I'm kind of everywhere online. If you type in those words into Google, you'll definitely find me.
Perfect. Thank you. We appreciate your time today joining us on the podcast, and we'll be sure to share your good and your influence that you're influencing those around you in your communities to our followers and listeners. Leif, we appreciate your time today, man.
Thank you, Zach. I appreciate the invitation and the work that you're doing to spread the good word.
These episodes will be launched on Mondays and Thursdays. And if you'd like someone to be on the podcast, if you think there's someone in your network that should be recognized for the good they are doing in the world, please reach out to us and send us a direct message. We can be found at Reaching World Podcast on Facebook.com. So be sure to find us there, like our page, and submit any ideas or suggestions of individuals or organizations that should be highlighted on this podcast.